evening and welcome to Paranormal Path Peeps with Psychic Joe. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm okay. I can't believe we were nearly late as well because we were too busy.
You were chatting. Yeah, all your fault.
I know.
Yeah.
It's always my fault though, isn't it? I'm always talking.
I'm sure Joe's just going to be like chatting and won't be able to get a word in edgeways.
I think that's the best ones though, isn't it? When you can just chat away and you just don't have to do anything.
That's right. And, I met you quite a while ago and some of the posts I did.
You make us sound old, Jackie. We're not. It's not that.
I nearly swore then I was unprofessional, but we won't do that, will we?
No. To
I
be fair,
know,
we have known each other for such a long time, haven't we?
Yeah. So we sort of met at Paracon, didn't we? And we sort of, there's one particular time we're just sitting around, in between the sort of sessions, and you sort of came up to me and says that you've got my mum with you.
Oh God, I can't.
And and you basically said that she didn't want me to have a tattoo, and that you said something was happening, and you said that she didn't want it to happen. And I sort of said, well, I was due to have a tattoo. I'd paid for it. But something kicked off, basically, the tattooist. She got sent home. I do know more details, but I won't go there. And I couldn't get the tattoo. And basically, you said to me that if I wanted to remember my mum, then I need to put a picture on the shelf. And I have.
Oh my God. I can't. Do you know what? That's so.
You won't. People don't.
I can't remember that. I cannot remember that at all. It's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. So just sitting with Karen and Eddie, weren't we, in the bar? And
I know.
Yeah. And it's just.
How weird is this? Because Mark and I were driving through Wrexham, obviously the mighty Wrexham, we're all over the news at the moment. We were driving through Wrexham the other day and we saw this new sports bar and it was called Phrase. And I was like, oh my God. And it just made me think of Eddie straight away. And obviously, God rest him, he was a very good friend. So
he was wonderful, wasn't he? And and I remember going to Drakelow Tunnels. Hey?
We went to Drakelow Tunnels, didn't we?
Yeah, I went to Drakelow Tunnels and we met him in the pub, and then we sort of went down the canal and then on to sort of Drakelow. But
that was so wrong. We went down the canal.
Yeah, because as we're sort of walking along the banks, we sort of picked up on something as well. Some sort of murder or something. It was. I always think that was links between Drakelow Tunnels and Wolverley, because there must be some underground tunnels which link the two.
Yeah,
because it's the USAF base. But unfortunately, it's all locked off now. All the old buildings are not as easy to get access to now. Hello, thanks for joining us. It's great to meet you as well on Friday. Great night. So I went to Burton and met Rebecca there. So nice to speak to you.
I bet it was fantastic as well. Oh, we've got
Ron.
House, bless him.
Welcome.
So yeah, it's to be honest with you, I just think the whole of Drakelow Tunnels was just amazing in itself. Anyway, wasn't it? Because we were just, all of us were in our separate groups. We had so many different types of people there. So they were sensitives, they were just normal, run-of-the-mill ghost hunters, paranormal investigators. You had your serious ones, but then you had your ones who just weren't really that bothered. And I remember that night when because Gary picked me up, Gary Fields.
Oh, he's brilliant. Yeah.
And
who's appeared in publicity now because of the Liverpool game. Have you seen it?
You know what he's like. He's a football boy, isn't he?
But he's right in the photo going, hey.
Just leave him to it. He's fine.
I know, he enjoys it.
You know what? My other half is exactly the same now. So as soon as, like Wrexham this year, obviously, we couldn't get tickets previously, but Wrexham now have gone up to the championship. So I think I'm going to become a football widow as well now, especially because Rob and Ryan and all this, that and the other. But do you know what? Wrexham is an amazing town. And I always say this, but I feel really at home here. And it's funny because the girls like Nikki and Gemma are always saying to me, oh, God, you sound dead Welsh. And I'm like, do I?
New Yorkshire.
Yeah, I am a Yorkshire lass. Yeah, I'm very much a Yorkshire lass, but
bless you.
I've got this like little Welsh twang now. And hey, Nikki.
Nikki.
Yeah, speak of the devil.
Yeah, just appears.
So it's kind of like, this little Welsh twang that comes out, and Nikki always reminds me, and she's like, oh God, you sounded dead Welsh when you said that.
So I made it onto Things Network today, which I'm happy about because I keep trying to put the show out there, but StreamYard keeps doing something silly. So that's great.
Well, I know Jeremy quite a long time ago, actually, from when I used to do the full moon, the Wolf Moon show, actually. So so I've known Jeremy for quite a long time, but obviously I took a step back. I think, I don't know what happened. I kind of kept myself to myself for a couple of years, and then kind of thought, I'm going to start doing my own thing. And usually when you're cross. But yeah, it's I took a step back and just kind of thought to myself, gather your thoughts, Joe, just go out and do the events across the UK, which is what we did. And I'm quite happy with that. I was going up and down the country doing the psychic nights from Worcester right up to Edinburgh to Glasgow, all the way around the country. And I was like, do you know what? I really like this. Do I like the traveling? No, but I must admit it is quite a draw to start doing it again. And obviously seeing Barry and stuff like that, doing Barry John, that is.
Yeah.
And I just think, I need to kind of step it up a little bit more this year. But as you know, the Paracon is coming.
That's right, in Chester in September. September, October. Hey, you got that wrong. Yeah, right near Halloween. Just different.
But no, I mean, the Paracon is coming up in October, so we've been so busy with that. And I apologize to everybody for spamming everybody's pages with all the videos that we do. And we do take an awful lot of pride in it. And we've got some amazing speakers this year. And to be honest with you, do you want to know how long it took us to actually put the Paracon together? It took us 48 hours.
Oh, wow.
We literally sat there and we were like, Mark was at sea. Me and Nikki have always been friends for the last 7 years.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
And I said to her, like we've discussed it over and over again. And it was just like one of those fleeting things. And she just said to me, why don't we do it, Joe? And I was like, I don't know why. Well, I don't know. And the more we thought about it, we were just like, right, we could have so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so. And we were like, actually, yeah, let's go and do it. So we decided to speak to a venue, and we secured the venue straight away. And
awesome.
Honestly, I just cannot believe how quickly it came about. And we sold out probably 75% of the VIP tickets before we'd even gone live. So
that's fantastic.
But that's testament though to us as people, but also
that's right. Yeah.
Paranormal, because I always think that when you meet people, you either leave that lasting impression with people, and you like you know what I'm like. I would literally get out of my bed at 1 o'clock in the morning to come and stay from a bloody service station. And I was like, message me, make sure you message me and make sure you get home okay, but I will come and get you. And
that was so incredible, because I was going to host, and it's like 45 minutes away. And it's one of those days where everywhere was flooded. And I thought, well, I said I'd host. I thought I'd go, and I thought the road's clear. But I was driving, and it's really driving rain into the windscreen. And, I thought, well, it's getting too dodgy here. So what I'm going to do is pull behind a lorry and just go, slower rather than be outside of a lorry.
Yeah.
So I think the sheer force of the rain and the wind against the windscreen wipers forced one down. So the windscreen wipers wouldn't work.
Oh, God.
So I then had to travel a few miles down the M1. I I think if I'd have stayed on the hard shoulder, I'd probably been killed because people wouldn't have seen me because visibility is that bad. So I tried driving down there for a bit slowly, and then I had to pull back on the carriageway because it was all shut off. And it's like, well, it was catch-22 what you do. And by the time I got to the motorway services, I was absolutely shaking, obviously. And it was what to do for the best, wasn't it? I just really didn't know.
I think when you put that post on Facebook and you were like, "Oh, I'm at motorway services," and I was like, "Oh my God, she's on her own there. I know for a fact she's on her own, and the dog's at home." And I'm like, "Somebody needs to go and see her." And I was like, "Are you okay? If you're not okay, I'll come and get you." I was like, "I don't care how far it is, but just make sure you're okay."
Oh, yeah, it was just like one of those evenings. But, I know if I'd have just left the car on the hard shoulder, then it, it wouldn't have been safe. And they couldn't get to me because everyone was broken down everywhere.
Yeah.
And roads were flooded. And yeah, in hindsight, yeah, I shouldn't have gone. But you do these things, don't you? Time and time again.
Exactly. Hindsight is a wonderful thing, though,
isn't it? Yeah. So all because of a silly windscreen wiper getting jammed and the motor going on it. The car was perfectly drivable, but unfortunately, it was a bit, yeah.
Oh, well. Well, I think you put it down to experience, though, can't you?
Yeah, but that offer from you was incredible because you were absolutely miles away, and that's a hell of a drive for you. But thanks for that.
No,
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, anybody. I think anybody who is in my kind of close circle knows that they can ask me. Like I've worked with so many different paranormal groups, from Wednesbury Paranormal to the all of those people, like Lost Soul Paranormal, and everybody knows that if anybody is in any sort of dire straits, they can call me anytime, and I would move heaven and earth to do something for them. And
you're totally incredible. You really are.
Oh,
but anyway, let's get back to paranormal here.
I believe you read what you know, though. So, if you're an absolute idiot in this industry, I just think, people view you as being an idiot. So, you can be on TV as much as you want to, but your reputation precedes you. And if you piss people off, excuse me for saying piss, but if you piss people off on the way up, you're definitely going to piss them off on the way down. So there's no point doing that. And if that's one thing that I will take away from my former life, I will always take that with me. You be the normal person that you want to be in and around everybody. And I think you should be you 110% of the time, instead of this persona that you have to put on, and you shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah, that's right, because it's bound to slip eventually, isn't it? You can't always keep at that, then and the cracks will start showing. But unless your personality is that bad, no comments. But yeah. So obviously you're psychic, but where did it start for you then?
So
before, but
I know and you know what? I tell this story so much now. It's kind of like, I feel like it's ingrained, but my mum likes to tell me certain things like on top of that as well. She, I was around about 2, and I was playing with them. Do you remember the old ceramic tea sets that you used to get when you were a kid? They don't have now.
Yeah.
So I was playing with one of them, and I was speaking to my grandma, and I was saying to her, this, that, and the other. And my mum sort of like looked at me as if to say, "What are you talking about?" And she asked me, and I said, "Oh, Grandma's here." And I just remember her kind of asking me questions, and I was answering those questions. And she was like, "Oh my God, she is exactly like me. And she's exactly like my nan, and, and the rest of the sisters." So it was quite surreal, really, because I kind of grew up with not being chastised for it. So having this kind of sixth sense, as I like to call it, was always prevalent, and it was always there. So from being 2 to probably around about 5, it was all innocent. I didn't understand it. But then when I got to infant school, I understood it a little bit more, because I could see things that other people couldn't see. So my old head teacher, I could see her aura, and it was like really golden behind her. But then it was really strange, because I said to a lad at the side of me, "Do you remember that?" And he was like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And he was like, I sat back and said to my mum, "I'm different, aren't I?" And she said, "You are different." She said, "But we will get you to where you need to be." So I think I was about 7, and there was a lady who came to our house, and she was good friends with my mum. And I told her that she was going to win some money. Didn't know how, but she did. She won quite a lot of money.
Wow.
And she gave some to my mum. But yeah, it was such a nice time. But then obviously I didn't foresee my mum's accident come in. So my mum had a huge car accident when I was 10. And a car ran into the whole family, so maimed my mum and just left her for dead in a garden, which was quite a long time ago now, and I hate to say that, but it left me for around about 3 years. And my best friend at the time, Pippa Whitworth, who I'm still friends with to this day, we were very close, and her mum was like a second mum to me. But it was really strange, because I started to experience like visions and things like that in her house, because I used to go there on Wednesdays after school, and we used to go to this local under 16s club night, and I used to sleep there, and she used to take me to school the next morning. And I used to wake up in the middle of the night and see people, and I'm thinking, I'm not seeing this, because I've not seen anything for a long time. But then we went to school this one day, and we were walking down the corridor, because we used to take photography as part of our extracurricular kind of time, like activities that you had to do. And I just remember we used to go to a school called Royds Hall High School, which is in Huddersfield, and it was notorious for being a military hospital. And you can see like the whole of the outside of the building was a manor house, and just on the outskirts there were like a glass concourse area. So right in the center was this garden, and then all the way around were like it was like a castle sort of thing. It was all stone, but they were just like corridors, and it was just in a quadrangle. And is that even a word? It was in a quadrant more to the so, but all of these doors were open, but they were all fire doors, and they were really heavy. So there were no way these doors should have been open. And I just remember her looking at me and saying, "Jo, can you see that down there?" And we looked towards the girls' toilets, and we saw what looked like a white nun. And she had this huge headdress on, this huge like white skirt and everything. And she was just literally stood there for a couple of seconds, and then she disappeared into the girls' toilets. Wow. And I looked at her and I was like, that's a bit weird. We walked into Mr. Harris's photography class, and he just stood there with his mop of like curly grey hair, and he said, "Oh, you two look like you've just seen a ghost." And I went, but apparently it was quite a bad omen within the school if anybody saw her. So they used it used to foretell like deaths within the school. And unfortunately, my CDT teacher, Mr. Kennedy, passed away, and that was only a couple of weeks later. And it was quite sad, really, because I thought, we've seen her, and obviously now that's what's happened. But yeah, so fast forward to leaving school, and I obviously went to university and saw things in my university that I couldn't explain. And I just remember the girl who I used to share the room with at uni, she just went, "Oh my God, I've just seen something." I was like, "What have you just seen?" And she'd seen this ginger man walk through a wall, and she said, "But he wasn't dressed in this dress. He was dressed in like really weird clothing." And I just laughed, because I thought, we're in the old mental asylum here, and this is all the halls of residence were Storrs Hall. So that was it was quite funny. But yeah, and then I grew up, as they say, and always had a fascination in the paranormal, but kind of let it dwindle when I got to around about 21, because you know how it goes. You meet someone, you get married, children, and unfortunately for me, I kind of let somebody dictate to me what I wanted to do with my life. And that is my previous life, which is what I said earlier. That's a previous life. And now my life is so much better because I embrace the paranormal, and I've got somebody who doesn't really like the paranormal, doesn't understand it, but kind of understands me as a person.
That's good. Yeah.
And he's very supportive. So when I go out and do my events here, there, and everywhere, he is very supportive of that. And, you know, he always says to me, you need to do what you need to do. And, you know, I will fully, wholly support you. So I'm dead thankful for that. And then it kind of grew from there, and I'm here now. And, you know, I'm one of the 3 founders of probably one of the biggest paracons in the UK.
Yeah.
And I've got my own psychic events business, and I work full time. And I'm just, how on earth people find the time to do it? Yeah. So it's madness.
Yeah, but everything does take so long, doesn't it? You know, so I've got a full-time job and sort of I'm doing my own events with Barry John now, and
I
I
know.
sort of host as well, and also go out most weekends as well as other things as well. And you know, it's just it's just filling your time, isn't it? Really.
It is, and I think when you start to be fulfilled in life, though, as well, it shows. And I think, you know, when I tell people what I do, and it's quite funny because obviously my partner's in the forces, and it's quite funny when, you know, he's saying to me, "Oh, people have looked at you and looked at your website and done this," and I'm just like, "Oh, it's only me. I'm just, you know."
Oh, bless you.
But it's, you know, it's nice because we've got, for the Paracon, we've got so many Americans coming over, and you know, like people who've seen me on Most Terrifying Places and all of the American TV shows that I've done, and even the UK TV shows, they've gone on YouTube and looked at those, and I'm like, I'm just little old me, you know, I'm just a normal. So for me, it's quite surreal, but what you see is what you get, and I definitely won't change for anybody.
That's it. And you know, you are a lovely person. It's a good job, you know, you haven't changed. And well, we're having a chat, aren't we? You know, and you're just so chilled out, and we're having a laugh, and it's cool, isn't it?
I don't know if it's going to be like that at Paracon. I'll be like, "Hi, see ya. I've got to go."
Oh my gosh, it's a different thing when it's like your responsibility.
I think for the 3 of us, though, it's kind of, you know, we all work together so well.
That's
And
good, yeah.
you know,
There's trust as well.
And that is a huge thing,
When
you're doing something as a group. You know, we said we were going to do it, and you have to put an awful lot of trust in people, and you know, you've got to kind of have each other's backs. And you know, we always said this when we first started it, you know, there is no ego, there is no, you know, there is no backstabbing. You know, if anything is bothering you, we talk about it. You know, if anything is, you know, if you want to know how much is in the bank account, you message. You know, you've all got access to everything. And I think that says a lot about the partnership that we've kind of grown. And I think the guests as well will understand when they see the Paracon in action, because all of the speakers are handpicked by all of us. So, and they will see that the friendships that we formed with all of our speakers, they will see that. And I think that's another thing as well. But we're all perfectionists, so the party is going to be absolutely fantastic. But then again, all of the speakers, everything's just going to be perfect. And, you know, I think that is probably one of my weaknesses, is that I am very, very much a perfectionist, and I kind of need to kind of step it down a little bit more and say, hang on a second, you know, you need to understand that your level of perfectionism is going to be like way up here, but then other people's perfectionisms could be down here. So I kind of need to strike that balance.
Yeah. But you know, it just sounds like it's going to be incredible. It really does.
Do you know what? Without letting things out the bag, I'm absolutely blown away by the sheer amount of people that have trusted us, because this is our debut event. And when we started this back in October, we were like, oh, are we doing the right thing? You know, we've got a year to sell tickets, and We've sold out our VIP tickets. We are halfway now for selling our Phantom tickets. We've got no Saturday tickets left. So we're literally, I'm sat back going, oh my God, we've created a monster. But yeah, and we wanted to create something that was affordable for people for the whole weekend.
Yeah.
And we negotiated prices with our hotel, which is the Crown Plaza in Chester. And we said it needs to be affordable. We can't have something that isn't. So yeah, so we've done that, but it is going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Brilliant. Oh, it sounds fantastic. Really
does.
does.
I can't wait to see you there.
It's such a stunning place. You know, the city, Chester is beautiful. I went earlier this year and I just love it.
It is. Yeah. It's got so much history to it though, and it's
Definitely.
like a hidden backdrop of Chester. You know, people are coming from America to see Chester, and they're coming earlier in the Paracon and leaving later than the Paracon, just so that they can understand it. And I think the best thing is when they get told that at 12 o'clock on a certain day of the year, an Englishman can shoot a Welshman with a bow and arrow and not be tried for murder for it. And I'm thinking, I'm English, Mark's Welsh.
Oh dear. There are some weird customs though, aren't there? There really are. But,
yeah, there is. And, you know, Chester are a bit like York. They're very, very historic in their own right. And when we kind of came up with some, like the venues that we were trying to pick, we were like, we need something that's big enough to house everybody. But we also need something that is very historic. So being historical, Chester holds a really, really dear place in our hearts, as does York, but they're on a par. So yeah, watch this space.
Fantastic. But yeah, it just sounds so incredible. So if you want tickets, how do people contact you? What's the best way? So you have got your page, haven't you? Lost Soul Paracon.
Yeah, so we've got our Lost Soul Paracon Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. God, I forget everything. But yeah, you can have a look at that. We've got our website, Lost Soul Paracon, which gives absolutely every bit of information. So our workshops, it gives you the speakers, it gives you guest information. So all about the city itself, all about parking, the hotel discounts and everything. Go on there first before you go on booking.com because it's well worth it. But yeah, it's fantastic. Really exciting.
I'm so pleased for you. I really am.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know it will be because like when I met you before and you've like done fancy dress, everything's been there to the nth degree. Shame I haven't got that photo. Just like there you go. But wow, yeah.
So yeah, Mark was at sea at that one, wasn't he? When we were at Paragon, and we all ended up with COVID. I just remember that and being really poorly afterwards.
I didn't.
How did you not get COVID?
Because I had it before.
Honestly, I am like literally, I was dying and I sat there. I remember Russ Bevan from Wednesbury Paranormal saying to me, do you want a beer? And I was like, no, hell no, don't want a beer. I'd rather have paracetamol. I'd rather have, that's what I want before I go to bed. And I just remember Claire saying to me, Jo, you don't look well at all. And I was like, I don't feel that great either. But yeah, I dressed up as a raven, didn't I? So I had like feathers.
Yeah, you did. But yeah, that Paracon, I didn't get ill because I'd had it. So even though it didn't actually exist then.
Well, so they say. But there was an awful lot.
I had it, yeah.
There was an awful lot of people coming over from the States. And yeah, I blame you then, Jackie. I reckon you brought it.
No, potentially. I can't say, but I had it the week before.
So yeah, 7 days incubation.
No, I didn't actually think I'd make it, to be fair.
Oh God.
Well, we didn't know what it was, did we?
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I drove home with sweat pouring down me, and I remember waking up. I remember getting home and actually saying to my ex-husband at the time, when I was like, "You're going to have to keep the kids because I physically can't look after them," and all I got was this barrage of abuse, and it was like, and I was like, literally, I am on death's door. I really, really cannot look after these children. But yeah, but I
Yeah,
had one of the
sorry.
strange. Yeah, I had one of the strangest experiences though then, because obviously Mark was at sea, and I was literally on my own. And I just remember I must have had a temperature of some sort, but I woke up in the middle of the night and I must have been sweating because I don't think I was here, to be perfectly honest. But I just remember seeing this woman, and she had what I can only describe as like pharaoh dress, or something like a white dress with this huge gold headdress on. And she told me that her name was Dharma and she was going to look after me. And I was like, oh, okay then. But with that, it was kind of like this whole, I started to get better then after that. But yeah, it's just strange, isn't it? How it all went out.
Yeah. Whoops, sorry. Yeah, it's just mad, isn't it?
I do blame you.
And I do kind of feel guilty if I'm laughing, sorry. But yeah, no, nobody knew, like I was really ill with it. And I thought, oh no, I want to go. And I felt a bit rough going, but we're used to colds and stuff, aren't we? But I knew it was something different. But it's just heavy flu, wasn't it? We didn't know it didn't exist. This is 2019.
I know,
Oh
and
my
this
gosh, so long ago.
Because Mark came back from sea. I think he came back at the start of December or probably mid-December, and he said to me, "Oh, come on, let's go and have a look at Denbigh Asylum." And I'm like, "Flipping heck, what's up with him?" So drove to Denbigh Asylum, and I was walking up the hill to Denbigh Asylum, and I was like, and I said to him, I can't walk up here. And he was like, "What's up with you? Come on, get a move on." And I was like, honestly, Mark, I said, I can't walk up here. I said, I feel terrible. But yeah, it took me a good while to get over it.
Yeah, and whenever they sort of said that, we really thought like in the January, February time something new was coming, but then you realise, oh, okay.
Yeah, and then when everybody knew what it was, and then everybody started having the vaccines and everything, that was really strange because I've never experienced anything like that.
Yeah, Denbigh Asylum's in Wales. Yeah, can't get access really, but interesting place.
Yeah, so Denbigh Asylum was in operation in around about the 1970s and kind of closed down in around about I think it was probably 1990s to like the 2000s, and has been empty ever since, and it's quite dilapidated now. But Denbigh Asylum was the major asylum for North Wales where people used to be taken and obviously convalesced. But really, really haunted, very, very macabre, and it's the way that it's set out is very, very grand. But apparently they bought it and they're trying to turn it into flats, but I haven't heard anything more about it.
Yeah, they sort of haven't done anything as yet on it. So
no,
I know somebody who was near there the other week. But yeah. Yeah, but I saw it from the castle, so I went to Gerwich Castle last October, so I nipped to Denbigh just to have a look at it, and I tried to get as close as I could. And I started talking to the locals, and they're so proud of it, aren't they? Because so many work there, and it actually did good things for the community.
Yeah.
And like from our perspective, we think, oh, this is creepy. We want to go there, but actually it was a place where people respected it, didn't they?
Yeah, and because Denbigh's such a small place as well, and North Wales is so small. I say North Wales is so small. It's not small, but usually what you find is the community work within the vicinity. So, when you go to the seaside towns, and I know you go to Barmouth quite often, and Shell Island and all those places.
Soon.
They do get people from the outside coming into work, but Denbigh is a community in itself, and the hospitals are very much like the ones in the US. So like the Eloise Asylum was an asylum, but it was a hospital within its own town. So that's what Denbigh reminds me of. It's very much similar to the Eloise.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I love that place.
Oh, bless you. There are other places in the US you like?
There's a lot of places I want to visit in the US. And Mark and I have been talking about doing a bit of a road trip, but I have said to him he has to embrace the kind of paranormal side of things as well. I don't think he'll like that, but well, I can try and convert him, I say.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'd like to go to the Hill House. I'd like to go to Waverley. I'd like to go to the Waverley.
Waverley's massive. I don't know if Jeremy's still watching, but there's once a photo I saw of Jeremy at Waverley, and it's bloody massive. But I think like when you get a certain image in front of your head, but then when you see a person in front of the whole thing, it's like, wow, it just brings it home more, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Hiya.
And I think like when I visited the Merchant's House in New York, when we did like the world's scariest hauntings, having a look at that house, you wouldn't think to look at it how haunted it was. And, all of these like floors and things like that were just unbelievable. You'd walk up another floor and it'd be like, oh my God, you've got this here, you've got that here. And it was amazing, especially in New York, because New York is such a vibrant city, isn't it? And you don't expect to have so many hauntings, but it is.
Yeah, it's sort of when you get the sort of old, with all the sort of tower blocks around it. Oh, there you go.
I know Sophie's like, we need a Lost Soul International. And you know what, Soph? We've been saying that for a long time. So who knows? It might be coming.
Oh,
I know Nikki would like that.
Oh gosh, yeah. It is a place I want to go to, but it's just I want to go to Queen Mary because my dad worked on it.
Oh God, yeah.
So I want to go, but then that's opposite. I want to go to the Gettysburg as well. So we're right across the country, and I'm not used to traveling that far.
Yeah, but they do flights, don't they? And the flights are so cheap, like internally.
I don't know. I'm not sure, but we're not used to traveling, are we? Like if I go to Scotland, our drive, it seems a hell of a long way, but it's only like 6 hours, 7 hours. But US, wow, you just can't get your head about how big it is, can you?
Well, yeah, because they drive from Ohio to Florida, which is something like 15 hours, I think. And they just do it in one straight stretch and they're not bothered. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And yeah, 6 for us is like, whoa, that's a bit much. Here's one from Ron.
The Sorrel Weed House in Savannah. Wow. That sounds really good.
Yeah.
But then there's loads of other places like the Axe Murder House in Villisca.
Yes, right.
There's the Conjuring House as well, and I know there's
issues over. Yeah, there's issues.
There's lots of issues about that, isn't there? But I don't really subscribe to anything. I just see like the DUIs and all this, that, and I'm just like, oh, okay, maybe not.
Okay, we'll keep away from that one for now and see what happens.
Yeah, and like it says, Gettysburg, Salem, all of those places. It's such. Even though America doesn't have as much history as we have, they've got enough history in order to make the hauntings that they've got. And, and that's why the Americans love to come to the UK so much, because they understand that our history is so rich. But, they've only got the history from the settlers. There was history there before, but it's kind of like peeling back those layers, isn't there? And trying to find out exactly what was there before.
That's it. It's like, like I did the National Justice Museum in Nottingham. And when you sort of go to these buildings from like 1200s when things were barbaric, in England and the UK, and you can't get your head around what happened in these buildings, can you?
The Galleries of Justice was my first ever paranormal event with my friends.
And mine.
It made me ill. It made me so poorly, because I was sat in the caves and I just remember stood there and I said to my friend Adele, I said, I don't feel very well. And she was like, what's wrong? And I could hear somebody breathing in my ear. And he went like that. He said, I'm going to make you poorly. He said, I'm going to make you. And I was like, with that, I was like heaving. And I was like, oh, I need to get out of here. But the feeling that came over me was like, just a feeling of dread, like somebody was chasing me. And I remember going up the stairs and I just stood there and I was like, I don't even know where I'm going. But I went to the toilet straight away and I was literally throwing up. And one of the girls came in and was like, are you all right? And I was like, no. I said, I feel so sick. I said, I can't go back down there. But when I was in the laundry room, I just remember feeling like I was in a washing machine. I was like spinning, and I was like, oh, I don't like this at all. And then we went to one of the cell areas, and I sat on the bed, and I was like, I really don't like this. And it was really, really, it was a horrible experience, and it's not one really that I want to repeat ever again. It was the feeling of being a young girl, and obviously things happening within that prison experience, and it was kind of like, no, that is not what I'm here for, and I don't want to feel things like this. So yeah, so that was. But then I did go up into the courtroom, and I saw a gentleman with a tricorn hat on, and he was just stood there staring at us all. And I was like, he shouldn't really be here, because he was in the wrong place for where he should have been. And I was like, that's a bit strange, because usually they would have been in like more ground level, not high up. So I found that quite strange. But yeah, the Galleries of Justice is always going to be one of my favorite places as well.
Yeah, I've sort of got a lot of history. Like my first ghost hunt was there. Also, I went to court there as well. So I actually watched a live court case from the 1980s.
Wow.
And I was at college at the time, and we watched the swearing in, the first, the morning. And yeah, it's just fascinating, the sort of pomp and circumstance of the time. And then for years later to realise it's haunted, because I didn't even think of things like that then. And my first ghost hunt, and my ex sat on the bed, and he started getting really mardy as a narcissist. And he got mardy because he said, I'm feeling sick. So he started getting really arsey. He stomped out the room, wouldn't go back in again. And like, he was nearly crying, and like, what an idiot. But hey, it's just too funny. Like, I just won't forget this experience. Oh, Dead Files.
Yeah. Do you know what? And do you know what? It's all of these TV shows are for entertainment now, aren't they? So everything's got to have a demon. Everything's got to be negative. Everything's, everything's hyped for entertainment. And to be honest, I would rather them show a TV show where you're investigating it and nothing happens. I would rather have that than see somebody faking things, saying that there's a demon, everything's a demon. And it's like, come on, guys, since when have we kind of duped the public into thinking that everything's a demon or everything's negative or the devil? Yes, there's going to be negative entities, but they're very few and far between.
Yeah, something definitely dark in the bottom of the National Justice Museum, though.
There is, yeah. I can vouch for that.
Yeah, we encountered it last time we went, and yeah, it was a bit gruesome, but yeah, so good, isn't it? It's what we like doing, and that's it.
Yeah, and do you know what? I've not. To be fair, I think the last investigation that I went on was the Lightwoods House one with Lost Soul Paranormal, and that was really, really eventful. So Lightwoods House, not Lightwoods House, sorry, Llanacydal Hall was the last one I went to. I should have gone to Lightwoods, but I'd been in hospital, so I couldn't go.
Oh gosh.
But yeah, Llanacydal Hall is like a private family residence, and we hosted an event there, and it was so strange. We did a medium kind of experiment with people who have never experienced mediumship throughout their whole lives, and we kind of did it across 3 or 4 groups. And the information that came out from all 3 groups was the same. Some people would say to me, I didn't get anything. And I was like, that's absolutely fine if you didn't get anything. But then when you hear somebody say, oh, well, I got a coach, somebody from the coach house, and he kept saying to me that he used to get the horses ready and he did this. And then the next one would say, oh, he said he worked with horses and he looked like this, and described him. And we had that over 4 consecutive groups. And I was like, this is a fantastic experiment.
Yeah.
And it's one now that we continue all of the time when we do our private events. And usually, with Lost Soul Paranormal, we don't tend to babysit. So we enjoy teams coming along with us, because we know that the last thing is people want to be told, oh, let's go and sit in this room. Can you do this for us, please? Can you do that? And people don't want that. They want to experience their own, their own paranormal experiences.
And that's what me and Barry try and do on ours. We sort of try and give leeway as much as we can. Obviously, it's got to be organised to some degree because you've got people there. But we want people to get their own experiences, not to be forced to do this activity or that activity. And rolling your eyes. And that's what I do.
You know why? Because I'm always sat there and you can always guarantee that one person goes, I'm not touching that Ouija board. I'm not touching it. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing this. And it's always the same piece of equipment. And I wrote every single time, I'm like, why not? And it's because of the stigma. It's to do with the films. It's to do with stigma attached to playing with these types of things when we were children. You were always told when you cut up the letters and you put them on the table, you shouldn't mess with things that you're not, and I used to laugh because my mum used to go, just mess with what you want to mess with. And I'm like, oh, okay then. But she said, whatever you do, you close it down properly and you open it properly with love and you close it with love and you do not enter into any conversation with something that isn't real. And I was like, yeah.
That works for you then, because we're always around you.
Yeah, well, we used to do it all the time when we were kids. And, I know an awful lot of people, but even now, kids are so engrossed on their devices, aren't they now? And it's pretty sad, really. I had a great, childhood growing up, and my mum was, because my mum's a medium, my grandmother's a medium, and she had a number of sisters who were mediums as well. And then when I trace back the family tree, they're from like Lancashire way, they're from South Wales way, and they're all got the witchcraft kind of element to them. So I always look at things, and even like my daughter's 18, and she's very much like, oh, I've just had this thought today, Mum. And she tells me, but she's like, I don't want what you've got. And it's kind of like, well, you haven't really got a choice in what you do. But she's very in tune, put it that way. But my son, there's just absolutely nothing with my son. He's like so chilled out, he's horizontal.
Oh, bless you. Yeah, some treat them like foaming monkeys. And that's it, isn't it?
And it is, and you know what? How many times have we been to an establishment and had so many people calling out the same things over and over again?
Yeah.
And, when a venue's been done to death, it takes. You need to strip it back to doing the bare minimum, and you need to be able to kind of sit there and do nothing and say nothing and just experience the atmosphere. But I think an awful lot of teams are scared of doing that because they're scared about the reviews. They're scared about, potentially not getting the bookings again for another event or something like that. But, sometimes I believe you've got to sit there in silence sometimes in order to get the evidence that you desperately need. But then again, on the other hand, you have to have that laughter. And, I went to a castle in Stoke-on-Trent and there was 20 of us there, my daughter included.
Oh, wow.
And we went there, and Sophie, who's on the stream at the moment, Sophie and Sarah were downstairs in the basement, and they were listening to a group of men having a full-blown conversation. We were in the main library area and all of us were in there and we were all laughing, we were all joking. And then all of a sudden you could hear a baby crying. There were no babies there. And then it was really weird because I remember Carla from The Unknown, she was behind me as we were walking through the nunnery, as it was known. And I felt somebody push me like this. And I turned around and I looked at her and I went, did you just push me? She went, no, I've just had somebody push me as so it's things like that. And when you get those types of hidden gems, it's amazing. And you kind of sit back and you want to keep it for yourself, but then you want to tell the whole world just how great it is. But that's still one of my favorite places in the UK is that one. And I will never divulge the location or anything like that. And Sophie's just said she heard the chairs move around the table. nobody was even in the main building.
Wow, incredible.
Yeah, we had such an amazing night there. And you know what? We are definitely going back, Sophie, but I just don't know when.
I'll have to keep an eye out. I'm just going to get the dog in the kennels, really, and that does stop me from travelling quite a bit. Otherwise, I'd be like in the car camping every weekend. But
yeah, if you stay over there, she does allow dogs there, so you could bring him.
No, he's yeah, he's a princess. Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely do need to go back. So we definitely do. So yeah, him. So watch this space.
Oh, sounds good. He growls that spirit. Yeah, he growled that spirit at the schooner, at the castle in Scotland. He growled at something, then the REM pod went off there. And yeah, he's growled at something in my house as well, which I think was my last dog.
They're great though, aren't the animals?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Maven, obviously, I called her Maven because I wanted to call her Raven, but she doesn't have black hair because she's a golden retriever. So I called her Maven instead, which my mum said to me, oh, you do realise that's Yiddish for all-knowing woman? And I was like, really? But she is such an amazing dog. She's only 2 in July, and she's just so good. Like, since I've been poorly, and not very many people will know this, but since I've been poorly, I went to try and walk her, and she looked at me and she was jumping up at me as if to say, you've gone too far now, you need to go back. And she was grabbing hold of the lead and she was like trying to pull me back, and sure enough, it was too much for me. But she is very, very intuitive. She knows. And now she doesn't, because she knows how I am, she doesn't jump up at me, but she jumps up at everybody else. So it's really, so it's really nice. So she's a very good paradog, I think.
I take it you've got somebody in the house with you, because I heard a massive bang then.
Yeah, it's just the door.
Oh, that's fine. That's all right then. That's fine.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
It's this house is usually very strange. So we usually have an old gentleman who's in here. So he usually kind of turns up when we're doing work on the house. So we were doing work on the garden room, and we came home one day and we could smell cigarette smoke, and neither of us smoke. So to smell it in the house, I was like, oh, he's just seeing what we're doing. And then there is a female in the house as well, a little old lady. And the first time I ever stepped foot over the threshold, she said, welcome home, dear. And I was like,
oh, how beautiful.
This is so strange.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, I had an operation in 2020 on my spine, and I just remember being dropped off, and I came into the house and got straight into bed. Mark was at my house in Pontefract with the children, and he was coming back the next day because it was quite late. And I just remember waking up in the middle of the night and hearing somebody walking up the stairs, and I thought it was Mark, but it wasn't. And it was, I waited for the door to open, but nobody opened the door. So it was really strange. But this house, I have never settled anywhere. And this is, I've lived all over. And this is the first house that I don't mind going. I walk around in the dark all the time here, whereas other houses I never have. I do feel very at home here.
Oh, that's wonderful. Rod asked about Blickling Hall in Norfolk. Have you ever been there?
I've never been there. So that's very strange. So that might be somewhere. We're supposed to be going to Norfolk in for the August summer holidays with the family.
Oh, wow, brilliant.
So might have to have a look at that.
Yeah, I think I've even been to Blickling, but I don't think I've been around the hall. I used to go to Norfolk quite a lot, stay at Wells next to sea, and Hunstanton, so I know sort of the area really well, but yeah, I've not really investigated there. Look, here's a man, like, let's be in all the photos, shall we? At a football match.
Bless him. He's
photo, Gary. Well done.
He's probably just got off his hangover now from yesterday, hasn't he?
Well, I'm glad I didn't have one, to be fair. Because my team played at the same time, so we went to do some entertainment at care home, and then after that went to the pub straight after, and then watched the match in the pub. And
oh my god,
I'm a Forest fan, so
Oh,
didn't go down as well as what Gary was enjoying.
well, I'm not going to
Yeah.
mention the Wrexham score or Wrexham or anything. So yeah, we watched it on the TV and it was like, you know, we've got to win this match before we get promoted to the championship. So yeah, but yeah, they did. The boys did well. They did fantastic.
Oh, Gary.
He's
I'm
such
gonna
a
say
bloody
it.
Lothario, isn't he?
I
In the
know
hot
it
tub.
is.
In
In
the
the
hot
hot
tub,
tub.
you know,
What's
it's
he
nice.
like, you
You
know?
know, it's been such
Yeah.
a gorgeous day today, and you know, just coming down now. What a day!
Bless you. Yeah, it was because like he was showing videos from the pub of, all the flair. Oh my god, it looked incredible. That was before the match, so no idea what it'd be like when everyone's celebrating.
I can actually tell him I understand what it feels like to see a sea of red, but obviously Wrexham are red and Liverpool are red, aren't they?
Forest are red, yeah. I've been to Wembley so many times for Forest.
I know.
It's weird not to follow it as much now because I used to go with my dad.
Yeah, my kid's godfather used to play for Forest.
Really? Who?
Darius Henderson.
Bloody hell.
That's a blast from the past, isn't it?
Wow. My gosh.
Yeah. So my kid's godfather played for Forest and he played for them for quite a long time. And Nathan Tyson as well.
Oh my god. Wow. Okay, yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I remember, football is like, I like football, but I just tend to literally just watch Wrexham now. Isn't that what you do when you've been to a paranormal investigation, Gary? Went out at 4, got in at 4.
Oh gosh, yeah, I know. He's always driving. It must be weird not to be driving everywhere this weekend.
That was a full day.
I bet it was. Yeah.
You're getting old, Gary. That's a 12-hour stint, is that? We used to a 16-hour one.
Oh, bless you. But yeah, it does look incredible. And I think, like with life the way it is, like we had a discussion earlier, like life is short. So if you can get out and about and do things, do it. Do it while you can.
It is. And
you got to, haven't you?
It is. And I always think, try not to be, try not to be hemmed in anywhere or, thinking, oh, well, I can't really do that because somebody's going to say something about doing this. And, the girls and I have put we're putting a podcast on as well now. So we've got our first podcast with Neil Packer from Paranormal.
Oh, yeah.
And do you know what? We all host all of these big events, Parameet, Paracon, all of these places. And we just think there's room for more people, there shouldn't be any animosity. We should be able to kind of come together. We should be able to promote each other's, events and things like that. And so much so, we're going to go to Parameet this year. And,
I'll see you.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. And, we're having him on the 13th of May. So we've got that at 7:30 on the 13th of May on our Lost Soul podcast. So so we're quite excited for it, really. We're just doing everything, aren't we?
59, are you?
Gary's 59. Bloody hell.
You're 59, Gary. Wow. I didn't realise that. That's kind of shocked me. Yeah.
Gary's always share everyone's work. He is, and you know what?
Gary's wonderful. Yeah,
Gary does it all the time, doesn't he? And Gary, I've not seen you for quite a long time, and you only live 20 minutes away from us. So when you come in for Sunday dinner again?
Oh, bless you. I'm seeing Gary soon. He's coming to one of my private events, so I'm kind of looking forward to that.
Where's my invite, Jack?
Yeah, I'll let you know. I've got Derby Jail soon as well.
Oh, do you know what? I saw Richard the other day on Facebook, and I was like, oh, bless him,
Oh, I know. Like a week, I saw the TikTok and I saw him struggling. Like I saw both of them and oh my gosh, oh guys, I'm not a ghost yet, but oh no. Then the second one was even worse because he's going to have an operation within the hour.
Oh,
there he is on TikTok and Oh gosh! And a week later, I went to a ghost hunt at Derby Jail, and there he was. And
He's
oh
just
my
one of
god!
them people, isn't he? He just kind of bounces
No,
back all the time, and he is one of the. I call them the stalwarts, but I shouldn't really call them the stalwarts, should I? I should always say like the patriarchal type people who are of the paranormal, because regardless of we hate it, he was part of that major TV show for such a long time,
yeah,
but
but
he's
it got me
always
into it.
yeah,
Like
and
that is
he
the
got
reason.
yeah.
In 2003, I went to the National Justice Museum and Derby Jail. There you go, and it's their fault.
It is, and you know what? They are, regardless of who they are, they did get an awful lot of people interested in the
Yeah,
paranormal in the UK, and
definitely.
a lot of teams have kind of evolved from that as well. And back in the day, I think when I started investigating back in I think it was 2013, there were no teams. There were hardly any
No.
teams whatsoever. You had to kind of, you had to go out and investigate your local woods, or you'd have to investigate somewhere where you thought, oh, well, actually, I'm a bit safe here. I can do this. But then, all these teams, these little teams started building, and then but nobody would take any other people on from their teams and things like that, and you're kind of like, well, why not? Everybody's striving for the same thing, and it's like all these TikTok stars, all doing the paranormal investigations and things like that. Do some events, come on, guys.
Yeah.
TikTok's great, subscriptions are great, we love all of that,
Yeah.
but some people just want to experience it for themselves. And there are venues out there that I think, that are ready to host those sorts of teams and things like that.
Yeah. I've started going on TikTok. It's interesting, isn't it? It's different.
I don't even know where to start on TikTok. I'm just like, I
Oh,
see all
come
these
on, Richard
people.
Felix can do it.
I know.
Richard,
Well, if
he
he
was
can
so
do it,
funny. He'll go, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. And then he's got like thousands watching him.
well, that's the thing. I'm
It's
like
just
stood there going,
incredible.
how am I gonna, like, I don't even understand what I'm like looking at things going, how have they done that? How have they done that? And then I look at some of our videos and I'm like, oh, that's worthy of TikTok. That's worthy of TikTok.
But yeah, it is good for like video, creating videos, because it's something I can't do. I'd like to do a nice intro and for this, but I'm not. I can't. You know what? Probably can do it. It's just the time, isn't it? And I've
Oh,
even like dropped my
with me, Jack.
photography.
I'll do you a good intro for
Oh,
this. Don't
cool!
you
Thank you.
worry.
It's also like my photography as well. I just haven't got time.
I
I've got
know,
photos from 2
but
years ago. I haven't even
But that's the thing though,
edited.
isn't it? Life is so busy,
Yeah.
everything's so busy, everything's so expensive these days as well. So
Mm.
even if you try and employ somebody to be able to do things like that, it's just so expensive.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's why you need to call in favors from friends. So yeah.
I don't know. I'm so stubborn on that. I don't, and I
I
won't.
think
And
I think because like everybody in this kind of world that we live in, an awful lot of people have been burned and they are so wary of trusting people.
I
And
am.
that trust in this paranormal world goes an awful long way. And if you trust somebody, you keep that person close to you,
Oh
because
yeah.
we all know what it's like to be burned.
Oh
And
gosh.
there
Yeah.
are so many people out there who are always wanting more and more and more, but they don't, like I said to you earlier, they don't care who they trip on or who they
Oh
step
no.
on in order to get where they need to be.
And
But
you see it and you watch it, don't you? And you see people come along and you can see exactly what they're trying to do. And you just watch it all happen, and then they disappear
it's
and
just like
someone else
watching this
comes
little
along.
pop-up book unfold, isn't it? And you're just like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all right. I've sussed it. Yeah.
But do you
But
know what? The people who are supposed to be here are here. And,
yeah.
if you've got those people that you trust, you keep them
Oh, I
close.
have, yeah, and I do my private events. So I fly under the radar. Got a little group, people come along, Gary's coming along to Matlock as well. So that's going to be incredible. There's going to be 10 of us there. And he came last time, and oh my gosh, something really strange happened. Sort of got this lady, but it wasn't like, I don't know if she's a witch. She wasn't of this world sort of thing. She was totally different, like a healer lady. And oh wow, it's just so incredible. It really was.
I think when you host those smaller events, though, you kind of do come across these people. It's like at the Paracon, we've got a sound bath happening on the Sunday.
Oh, how nice.
And the lady Angela, who was supposed to be conducting that, messaged me, and she was like, oh, "Jo, I'm so sorry. I've got a family party. I can't really miss it." And I was like, "Oh no!" But then she introduced me to another lady called Jo. And literally, I had a conversation with her for about an hour, and I was like, "Oh my God!" And when you kind of you have that inkling that you're supposed to be where you're supposed to be at the right time. It was just kind of all of that kind of really came out, and she's now doing our sound bath, and she was fantastic. So I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, she was amazing, looking after us all.
I know. I was just reading that then, 1600s she was from,
And she kind of came just to give us all healing. It was really so magical, and you're just on a stage at Matlock Pavilion, which I always get something crazy there. I really do. And yeah.
It is mad. I just, I've not been to Matlock before, so I don't really venture around there. It's usually like Birmingham way, North Wales way, Liverpool, Yorkshire, all of those places. But yeah, it's interesting.
So might have to have a chat later then, but we'll see.
Watch this space.
Yeah, we sort of and it can be incredible what we pick up. But yeah, I try and sort of go on the positive things, because there is so much negative, and you kind of feel like these people, they're always shouting about the negative, but nobody will come out and go, they're good, they're doing well. Oh, that's a brilliant video. And people don't do that, do they? And it's a shame.
It is. And you know what? It's kind of like there's always somebody to call somebody else. And my mum always said to me, if you've got nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Yeah.
That's what she used to say. And even now, like I'll sit here and I'll rant to Mark, and I'll rant to the girls sometimes, and I'm just like, I'm on my soapbox, and they're like laughing away, and I'll say some like choice words, and some of the words that get bandied about in our group is hilarious. Like I think what was one the other night? Oh, it was hilarious, and it's something that I would never have said previously, but I was just like, no, actually, it's quite funny, and it kind of made me smile. But I do think there needs to be an awful lot more encouragement. If somebody's done a great event, say it. If somebody is swindling people out of money and this, that, and the other, it needs to be talked about. And that is another thing that is prevalent within this paranormal community, is that so many people are getting away with blue murder, and they're not held accountable for it,
That's right.
It's sad, really, because like anything, there is no governing body, is there? There's nobody to kind of put it in place. And I think there has been people tried to police it before in the past, and they've just ended up being just as
very bad,
the rest of them.
Well, that's right. Without sort of heading towards spiritual churches, you've got politics there as well, and they try and govern certain things, and like wherever area you look, there's sort of always something, isn't there? But where people are involved, there are opinions involved, aren't there? And then
don't be started with that one. Everybody's got their own opinion on something, but nothing else smells the same. So
that's right.
It is quite funny, really. But everybody, you're right though, Jack. Everybody has got an opinion, but facts are facts, aren't they?
Well, that's right.
If the facts are staring at people in the face, then they've got to kind of look at those facts and say to them, make those informed decisions. And Yeah, we try and stay positive about everything. Like Gary's just saying, the more positive brings more positive, and it's right. But you know, sometimes it doesn't happen like that, and sometimes you just got to cut some people off. And
I'm good at that. I'm wonderful.
Yeah,
you know,
you are great at that. I've noticed that.
Have you?
I really need to kind of take a leaf out of your book though, because I'm the sort of what does Mark always say to me? He's like, oh, you know, you flouncy. I'm just like, you know, I'm just like a little good witch, you know, and I do try and see the good in people, but I am since all of this has kind of kicked off, what we were talking about earlier, I've kind of taken a step back and saying, well, actually, how many people have messaged me since I've been poorly, and how many people have really taken an interest? And there's not very many.
I haven't enough, and I feel bad now.
No, because you've got your own life.
I know, but I do message people. And, oh my gosh. But yeah.
But it's like anything, you know, it's you can always sit back and you can always count on one hand who you know, can I rely on that person to answer the phone at 3 o'clock in the morning if I desperately need them? And I've probably got
I will, I do, you know, like
6 or 7 people I can count on that I know for a fact would answer that phone.
Yeah, well, mine doesn't ring, but I'm usually you know, I'm always on Facebook, like whatever. And, you know, certain people I'm trying to help now, and you know, people go through things in life, and you do try and help, and you do try and do what you can. And I don't know, I saw someone post something on Facebook the other day, just a photo of them. I thought I better catch up with them. And I just felt, you know, you're doing all right, mate, you know, and you just have a little chat, don't you?
I do think Facebook though has got like it kind of has this, doesn't show you everybody either, and it wouldn't have, you know, they don't show you your feed or anything like that, so you don't. I know he's bloody nuts, isn't he?
I was
in a hot tub and he's like, yep, I'm sat here texting away,
watching telly.
Don't drop that phone, Gary.
Have you got a pint as well, Gary?
Yeah, but I mean, it's like Sophie's just messaged there, and I speak to Soph probably, you know, it could be a couple of weeks before I've messaged Soph, and she'll message me, like she's messaged me tonight, and I'm like, oh God, I need to get back to her. But it's, you know, you do know who your friends are, and you know, and you know, like, you know, Johan saying, you know, I cut off who I need to quickly, and I think that's probably what I'm guilty of. I don't do that, and I should do.
Yeah, I don't know. I think losing my parents, you know, it kind of does change you, you know, and you realise how short life is, and think, nah, I don't want that. Bye, you know, and you try and keep things happier, don't you? And if something is negative, then that's always got candles as well. Just listen to him, you know what I mean?
Sounds like he's on a dating site.
Oh my God, you're not, are you, Gary?
Oh God.
Oh dear.
But yeah, it's a great, you know, you only get one life, you know, you've got to live that life, and you've got to have those people around you, like we say, who you do trust. And
yeah, that's right.
You know, because it is a short life, you know. We've had some horrible news, we've had some, you know, we've had some amazing news, we've had, you know, there's certain things that are happening, you know, at the moment, and you just think to yourself, wow, you know, you kind of sit back and you think, is that happening? Or, you know, is that really for me? Is this it? It's kind of like, no, actually you've got to think positive, and you do have to think positively. And you know, you've got to kind of, I don't know about anybody else, but I met a young girl. Well, I say a young girl, she's probably about 10 years younger than me, and she's lovely. And I met her I went to a place called the Tipsy Tapas, which is in Llangollen. And it's a group for people who, you know, want to make friends, and it's such a mixed group of people. And Mark was at sea, and obviously when I'm here, because obviously Nikki and Gemma live 2 hours away from me, and Sophie lives 2 hours away from me, and my parents live 2 hours away. I was like, I've got the dog. I can't leave the dog at my mum's because she's got a dog and she doesn't like her. So I'm just like, what am I going to do? So I went to this tipsy tapas night, and I got chatting to this young girl and another lady who happens also to be called Jo. And we were just sat chatting about spiritualism and about all that sort of stuff. And then all of a sudden, and she went, "Oh my God, you're a medium." And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "That's amazing." And then that was it. Then we just got chatting so much. And then we were talking about life regression, and we were talking about all things, about what had happened previously and how things are supposed to happen, and about healing yourself through this past life regression and things like that.
I have a problem with mine. I have a massive problem with mine. Yeah.
But it's amazing what, there is an awful lot of people out there who understand what we do, who aren't afraid of it and who want to explore it as well. So it was one of them nights I wasn't going to go. And then like one of my friends, Lisa, she said, "Oh, come on, you'll enjoy it. Come on, we'll just have a drink."
Yeah.
I wasn't drinking, so I drove. So I picked her up on our way down, and we went for a nice meal. And the age range was massive. So you had a gentleman who was 74, bless him, and he got grown-up children the same age as me. And you'd got another guy who was probably about 71, but he'd lost his wife, and he'd got no friends, and he just wanted a social circle to kind of get involved with. And I think it was nice. It was a really nice evening, and there was about 10 of us there, and it was lovely. Ladies and gents of all different ages. And if you've got these groups in and around you, honestly, have a look and see if there is anything on Facebook, because it's amazing. And if people are worried about rocking up on their own, don't. It's one of them things you just think, wow. And I've made a couple of really good friends from that, and it's incredible.
Nice. Yeah, it's like I was in a bad situation, and I didn't really. I was trying to get a job, and I trying to get somewhere to live, and I sort of came back and I didn't have any money and stuff, and I joined a drama group. I'm with them like 10 years now, and oh my gosh, they're brilliant friends, and they are the ones you can go on holiday with and get absolutely hammered and do silly things, and it's fine. And I've got all the photos here from last night, and only a few have gone on my timeline, not all of them.
Oh, bless
because
you.
I message them to the and we can trust each other, we'll just have a laugh, and like in the little messenger we'll like just send embarrassing photos to each other from other events,
Well, I'm always saying to you, the next time you come camping to North Wales, give me a shout and I'll come and see you. And
very soon, actually. Very.
Ooh.
Yeah,
you'll have to let me know, because I'll definitely come and see you.
Yeah, very soon, actually, as soon as I can get time off work. So
how is your new job going anyway?
Yeah, it's fine, but it's a restructure. We're having a meeting about that on Wednesday. So I'm glad there's a restructure finally. I've been waiting for years. So yeah. So I just want to know what my job is and just to get on with it. Someone's comment at the moment, but it's going really well. Yeah, I am going to Shell Island. I am. Within the next 2 to 3 weeks. There you go.
Woo!
And but I can't go out the weekend because I've screwed it up with ghost stunts. so I can't get a week on Shell Island because I've been overbooking all the time. So
and look at Gary's saying, "Told you that'll happen."
Oh yeah, but yeah,
Gary will be there in his camper van as well.
Well, Gary got taken out on Shell Island because of me. Oops. Yeah. I was at an event, and it's kind of private, and something came through. We won't mention exactly what. And I was going to an occult evening the next evening. I said, "So do you want to are you going to come to the occult evening?" And it said, "Yeah." So it turned up, and Gary had to untie it from me or something.
Oh God.
And then it got annoyed, and it took Gary out on Shell Island and took his foot out, took his ankle out when he was just minding his own business. So yeah, I know. Yeah. So yeah, don't mess with.
Are you sure that wasn't the spirits of a different kind, Gary?
Well, he blamed me for it anyway. Well,
Oh,
no.
he blames everybody.
Gary doesn't actually blame anybody, though, does he? He's just too kind to do that. He'll say, "Oh, I did this," and then, "Oops, that's me then."
Yeah, he's a good guy, is Gaz.
Yeah. Oh, he is. He's wonderful. But yeah, I'll see him soon at Matlock. So yeah, who knows what's going to happen there? So yeah, I've got some really great people going. So yeah, and Derby Joe as well. But what sort of right? Okay, somebody contacted me, and basically there's two children sharing a bedroom, 1 4 and 1 7. All of a sudden, the 4-year-old is seeing things, and they ran into the mum and dad's room the other night complaining because the shadow people were keeping them awake talking. How would you advise on that?
Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful.
She's lovely, and she bless
She
her.
is lovely, yeah.
How would I advise on that?
Yeah, where see, I don't think the family are like mediumistic.
Okay.
But it's just this child all of a sudden becoming scared of these shadows and they won't stop talking.
Well, firstly, I would tackle it in such a way, because my daughter did this. You know, she kept saying to me she was seeing things, and it was kind of like, you ask the open questions, you know, you find out what is real and what isn't real, because kids have really, really good imaginations.
Yeah.
And kids are so innocent that they don't lie, especially at 2 and 4. So
this one's 4 and the older one's 7, but I don't know if that one can pick things up, but the 4-year-old is the one.
Well, I would still continue to ask the questions and ask them to to draw the pictures of them, and to actually find out exactly what's there. Then I'd probably have a look into the history of the house. You know, obviously being a medium, I don't really need to do that myself, but I would urge obviously a family to look into the history of the you know, the of the house. But I would also question, you know, if there's been any sort of interaction with people who aren't very nice. But I would also question if there's been anything happening within the school environment as well. Obviously, there's a lot of outside influences that can cause people to kind of manifest these little shadow people and things like that. And then I'd probably, you know, once I'd kind of come to all those conclusions and evaluated all of that, then I would potentially, if I thought that there was something untoward, then I would consider speaking to either a paranormal investigator or somebody like myself to say, this is what's happening. Because then we kind of go back in and we kind of say, you know, has there been any history of mental health within the family? Has there been any sort of, you know, medication that's been brought in? And, you know, quite quickly you can kind of establish what is and what isn't. So yeah. Yeah, I do remember that house Leeds way as well, Gary. So I did have a case probably around about 10 years ago now. And she was I think she was around about 6 or 7 at the time. Oh, was she? No, she was probably a bit younger, about 5. And she was very scared about somebody coming into her room and saying things to her. When we actually got there, I knew I met the grandmother through a friend of mine, and the more questions that I asked her, I kept feeling this sense of dread within the house. There was this oppression that I couldn't really shift, and it was more of a point of, you know, there is something desperate in this house. Oh, he's like, you're not doing me out, Maven. He said, I'm going to get involved. But there was this feeling of oppression within the house, and it became quite apparent that whatever was in that house, we needed to get rid of. And that's where we kind of did a sort of mini, I won't call it an exorcism, but it was more of a banishing. And the house was then quiet for a good couple of years, but then she started to experience more as she grew up, which then kind of led me down the path of, do you think that she might be psychic because she's getting all of this information and she's still getting it even now to this day when we've banished this one, but now you've got something else. So there were certain things and certain exercises that we could put in place for her. And I said to her, if you don't want it, you tell them that you don't want it. And I said, if you reiterate constantly, I don't want it, I don't want it. But yeah, it's, you know, I haven't had anything since to say that she's experienced anything. So touch wood, I'm hoping that she's absolutely fine. But yeah, Sophie says Malachi is the same. His imagination is next level. It's scary. Some of the things he's predicted, it's scary, it's crazy. I know. And, you know, obviously Lockie as well now, you're going to have to be careful because Sutton and Lockie, I reckon, are going to be your little psychic babies.
Oh, that's incredible.
And it's funny because Sophie came to one of my events in Wrexham and she was laughing away on the table and her husband was there at the same time. And I said, I don't know what you're laughing for. You've got another baby coming along. And she was like, what? And I went, yeah, a little boy, you're fine. And it's so funny because I said that to my sister-in-law. And this is how weird it is. We went away to Anglesey with our family and my sister-in-law brought Verity, she's only 16 months, but she is talking like there is no tomorrow. She turned around and looked at Mark's dad and called him Peter. Well, nobody calls him Peter.
Ooh.
And that is really strange. But then Oscar, which is Mark's nephew, he's 12, 13. Is he 13? Yeah, he's roughly around about 13. Yeah. And apparently he said something to her and said, oh, because Mark's mum was called Julie. And he said, oh, are you Julie Bagnall? And apparently she winked at him like that. And I was like, oh my God. And even Leah, my sister-in-law, she said, no way. And there were certain things that Mark's auntie has said as well that she's like, Julie used to call him Peter. Nobody else called him Peter. It's either Pete, Dad, Gramps, or Grampy, or Trampy, as Guy calls him. So that was really strange. So that is another kind of weird thing as well. But yeah, she's the spitting image of Mark's mum. Absolute spitting image.
Oh, wow. Bless you.
I'll be speaking to you from the other side. Oh God. You're such a good mum though, Soph. Honestly, she needs a little football team because she's just one of the most amazing mums I've ever seen. Honestly, you know, she does so much.
Well, yeah. This has been wonderful. It's been such a quick hour and a half, really. It has.
Sorry, I told you I could talk.
No, you know what? I could carry on all night, but I've got to leave because the Things Network, they've got another show on, the Dark Mirror show now. With Wayne Steed and Mark Manley, so we're going to have to go. But thanks everyone for watching. No. And the comments, brilliant. Thanks everybody. But also, Lost Soul Paracon, look it up. It's in Chester.
This Halloween, the 10th to the 12th of October.
12th of October, Crown Plaza. So check it out. And yeah, it just sounds incredible. You've got some great speakers as well, haven't you? So yeah, bless you. But thanks everyone for watching. Thanks, Joanne. Thank you.
See you later.
Right, bye. Thank you. Bye.
See you later.